Let's focus on the big first topic this week, though, and that is the UEFA Champions League. Let's wrap the quarterfinal first legs. It was a really busy week for a lot of the Premier League teams still involved. My big question straight away to you, Nick Mendola, what is going on at Chelsea? Because the reigning European champions lost 3-1 at home to Real Madrid. That comes on off the back of losing 4-1 at home to Brentford. I mean, 2 defeats on the spin under Thomas Tuchel. They're leaking goals. What on earth is going on? What's wrong with them? Because we just didn't really see that coming, did we, at all?
Yes and no. I totally didn't see it coming, but I should have, because I feel like we've been sleeping on Karim Benzema for about a year. Like, it feels like he scores 2 goals in every game, and the goals were like, I mean, he made Christensen look bad to the extent where I was wondering, is Barcelona going to have second thoughts because he's going to have to stop this guy next year? Like, that was my thought. But those were just really good finishes from a really good finisher, and it was raining, and Lukaku missed, and Ziyech missed, and Mount missed, and I think they outshot him, was it 22-8 or 16-0 in the second half, and I just kept thinking, they better try to score really early in the second leg, because I don't think Real Madrid is that much better, but Real Madrid's Romelu Lukaku was on fire yesterday, the version of him that Chelsea would like to have. And is it just as simple as a center forward going straight up clinical for about an hour?
Andy, do you agree with that? Because, I mean, Real Madrid, they just had that extra bit of class, didn't they? Even in midfield with Modric and Kroos and Casemiro, just slowed it down and found the gaps. And like Nick said there, Benzema was just out of this world. The hat trick, back-to-back hat tricks in knockout games in the Champions League. The 2 headers were sublime, but it wasn't just the finishes. It was the movement and the way he was dragging that Chelsea back 3. And they had to change it at half-time to go to a flat back 4 because it was just awful. And Thomas Tuchel said as much. He said, that's the worst first half we've played at home since he's been in charge. So was it that Real Madrid were that good and obviously showed all their experience in the Champions League? Or do you think it was that Chelsea really handed it to him? Because Nick mentioned it there. They were pretty good in the second half, had a lot of chances, didn't put them away. And that's why they're going to the Bernabeu with a 2-goal deficit that Thomas Tuchel said they cannot come back from. So do you think they can come back for that? Is that Chelsea's title hopes of being back-to-back winners over?
Yeah, it's tough for me to tell whether Tuchel is trying to kind of motivate his players and let them know, hey, the season is slipping away. Not that it has already completely gone, but it's currently in the process of slipping away, and you can still stop it at this point. Or he's already having something of kind of a falling out with some of the players, and he might not be there at the start of next season. And I think maybe he realizes there's a little bit more pressure, a little bit quicker than he anticipated after winning the Champions League just last season. I think he probably thought, and wrongly so, at a club like Chelsea, that might buy him just a little bit more time. He only did 2 seasons at Dortmund. He only did 2.5 seasons at PSG. So going out after a season and a half, winning the UEFA Champions League, it wouldn't be out of line with what he's done in his career. It also wouldn't be out of line with what Chelsea have done historically. And then you factor in, there's going to be a new owner coming in, and maybe they want someone of their choosing to lead the ship. And so it's a really, really interesting time for Chelsea off the field, but it's becoming even more interesting on the field given the struggles that they've had over these last couple of games. And I think Nick is absolutely right to point out Benzema as being just that absolute superstar for Real Madrid at a point in his career where I don't think anybody expected it. And he's pushing 35 now, and he's playing the best of his entire career. And that's really something. And so as I'm looking for little pieces of narrative to put together to feed into and fit my prediction of Real Madrid winning the Champions League this season, I'm looking at this as the Karim Benzema legacy season or run in the Champions League, the one that's going to really cement him as an all-time great at Real Madrid. Because if you just look at the numbers and ignore the fact that he was overshadowed by Ronaldo for a decade almost, Karim Benzema is one of the all-time best club strikers that has ever played the game. And so I do think there's a measure of quality that came from Real Madrid in this game, and ruthlessness, the know-how and experience to have been there before, versus a Chelsea team that I think is just lacking in confidence. And I think belief and all the other factors that they somehow managed to push through immediately after everything started to happen with Roman Abramovich. I think it's all beginning to weigh on them, and the season's falling apart. Lukaku, another good point by Nick, they've got nothing from him this season. All that money spent, all those hopes that were pinned on him, and he's given them almost nothing.
So true. The point on Benzema as well, the fact that he was in Ronaldo's shadow for so long and just was happy to play out wide, play out in position a bit and be the supporting act. The fact that he's now taken that on as the leading man the last few seasons, obviously top of La Liga, flying there. I cannot really think of that many players who have actually peaked in their, mid-30s, early 30s, the way that he has over the years. It's very rare. Even Modric, I guess, has got better and better, like a fine French wine over the years. But Benzema, I mean, like a fine cognac. I don't know. It's unbelievable the way that he's just clicking through the gears and just carrying that team, because they're a solid team, like we said, full of experienced players. But he has that sprinkle of class and X factor that they used to have under Ronaldo. They were meant to have when Eden Hazard turned up, but obviously he's had injury issues. So all of a sudden, Benzema is the go-to guy. And like you guys both mentioned, just no one really expected that, and it's a real pleasant surprise because you can see how much the fans love him, the players love him, Ancelotti loves him for obvious reasons, and Real Madrid pretty much have to be the favourites to win it all now. So well done, Andy, on calling that a few weeks ago. Nick, on Chelsea, finally, Andy pointed at that. How much do we put this down to the instability off the pitch? I mean, there's still ongoing sale that still hasn't gone through yet. Obviously, we saw them lose against Brentford. It's almost like the players went away. They're in that little bubble when all the sanctions first started and the license was very limited for them to keep operating as a club. And then there's that siege mentality initially amongst the players and coaching staff. And then they went away and they did really well. And they went away the international break. And then maybe they were thinking about things too much, or they thought things might have been sorted out by the time they got back at the club, but they haven't been sorted out. And then all of a sudden, just two very bad defeats. I mean, is this just a blip for Chelsea, or do you think, like Andy mentioned there, it might just all be catching up with them and we could see them really slump in the last quarter of the season, I guess, because they got some big games to come, but not a long way until they need to try and finish in the top four of the Premier League.
I think we're going to know an awful lot this weekend by the time we see them play Saints. I mean, Thomas Tuchel basically sounded the horn, right, in his post-game press conference.
Right.
When he said, yeah, I'm not worried about Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. I'm worried about Southampton, because if we don't show up against them, we're going to get hammered in Spain. And look, I think I could go either way here. I tend to think that this whole situation with Abramovich has been harder than we could even believe. To be around it every day, to have a fan base that is worried about what's going to happen to a club that has terrific history, but also exploded, within the last 15 to 20 years under this guy spending all this money on them. So is there a chance that is going to catch up to them? Absolutely. We saw, Joe, you had the article yesterday about Christian Pulisic's comments about his future, and you're not going to be seeing a lot of guys signing new deals right now. But on the other hand, are we living in a world where we are maybe combining a lot of factors for no reason, because the Brentford game was so bad and the score line yesterday was so bad? Every team does go through these 2-3 game stretches. It's funny how it happens, right? It never happens where you have one bad game and just bounce right back, unless you're one of the absolute dynamite teams. It's always like 3 or 4 games before they get it together. So is it just that this stretch is happening at a bad time? There's a chance of that. And I think this Southampton game is, whether Tuchel realized how wise he was being about it or not, is going to tell us a ton.
It is, and I think you could probably put good money on Chelsea being 2 or 3-0 up in that game and seeing a bit of a reaction against Southampton. But just saying that.
Why would you think that, Joe?
Well, the past is...
He said not scared of Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, but scared of Southampton. I mean, what a statement.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.